Welcome to F101 with Friends, your pit stop for all things Formula One. Whether you're here for the stats, the memes, or just figuring out what a chicane is, we've got you covered. Buckle up, because the fun starts right now. Hi everyone, my name is Nisha, a newbie F1 girlie who is desperate to make more friends so that I can talk about this sport all the time. Each week, a new guest will join me on this journey, from seasoned F1 fans to other curious newcomers, and we will explore what it is about this million-dollar sport at gravity-defying speeds that we just can't stop watching. We'll try to break it all down in a way that's fun, relatable, and hopefully try to explain some of the tech talk. We are here at the Temple of Speed, Monza, Italy. It's where cars hit their highest velocities of the year, where slipstream battles feel like something out of a video game, and where the roar of the tifosi, that's Ferrari's passionate red-clad fans, turn the whole circuit into a cauldron of noise and emotions. And to dive into all of it with me, I couldn't bring anyone else but my Ferrari-loving friend, Aswathy. She bleeds red. She lives for that tifosi energy. And she's back on the pod to guide us through this very special Grand Prix. Welcome to the show, Aswathy.
Forza Ferrari.
Of course, I would not have expected any other response from you. If listeners don't remember, Aswathy was the one who was on the Ferrari episode, as well as when she and Kevin tried to stage a coup and overtake on the Monaco episode. Aswathy, I know this is a difficult time for you because Zandvoort was a race. It happened.
Yep.
It was very, very exciting. We were promised rain. There was no rain, but it was still very exciting. Why don't you tell me your highlights and lowlights? Maybe start with the lowlights so we can end on a good note.
I actually requested, I think, a day off from work, but my boss told me Ferrari sucked again is not an excuse
Oh,
and
God.
just get to fucking work. Um, I think the lowlights, yeah, we Ferrari'd.
Yeah.
We Ferrari'd hard was a combination of some bad decisions and sometimes just tough luck. But the fact is that we were kind of subpar throughout the weekend. And also to the other love of my life, Carlos Sainz. I felt
Yes.
like that incident with Lawson was at best a racing incident, and Lawson was just
Agreed.
doing his aggressive driving. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have even thought he would get a penalty, but for Carlos to get it and a ten
Yeah.
second penalty, and for them to say
Oof.
he was overwhelmingly or at least wholly to blame for that incident was just
Yeah.
absolutely insane, and just refusing to meet him later. Um,
Yeah.
that was just a crazy part of the race, and I feel like again with Lando was bad luck.
Yeah.
It
It's,
was
oh my God, I just realized you're a Ferrari fan. You love Carlos Sainz and
yes,
Lando Norris. This
yes,
must have just been the
just
worst day in the world for
just a
you.
sucker for pain. But I felt bad for Lando, and I feel
Yeah,
like
me too.
maybe, but I feel like there's been a lot of these Mercedes engine reliability
Yes.
issues this season. I feel like I saw the Mercedes, I saw Antonelli a couple of times this season.
Yeah.
There's something with Alonso, something with
Correct.
Alex. So I don't know. Maybe it's saying something about the engine, and I think that's enough of the bad stuff. Good
Yes. Yeah,
stuff.
just to add like one thing to that,
More. There's more.
the two people who no, as an aside, this is my tinfoil conspiracy theory bit, right? As like the two people who got unfair penalties, I thought, was Russell and Carlos. Both of them are directors of the GPDA, Grand Prix Drivers Association. So I don't know. Maybe this is like this stewards are like, you know what? We need to teach these two a lesson.
Maybe. I'm sure that WhatsApp
So
group between them is just going crazy.
on fire. Yes.
And both Carlos and
Both of them in
Russell
the
are
back.
the talk to the manager kind of people.
Exactly. Big Karen energy.
Yes. Uh,
Yeah.
like
But that's just my
I can see it. I
tinfoil.
can see it. But aren't like stewards selected locally? Like I don't
They
know.
are.
Okay, maybe there is a conspiracy, and I'd rather believe that.
Yes. But what were your highlights?
Highlights for me. I think the I think I cried two times in that race. First time was when
Yeah.
Charles crashed out, and the second time was when
Yes.
Hajar ran to his people after winning the
I
podium. I'm like,
know.
it was so
It was so
wholesome,
cute.
and just remembering how his first race went and how this season has been for him.
Yeah.
Like, I am so happy for him and for his family and for just like everything he's given to the sport, and he is an absolute rookie, so he deserves this, and he deserves everything. Also, I feel Oscar controlled the race start to finish.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was perfect, zero mistakes. The
Mm-hmm.
34 point gap between Lando was solid. It's not impossible to beat,
Oof.
but
Yes.
34 points, 9
Yes.
races. It should be like an interesting combination.
There's also a couple of sprint
Yeah,
races.
oh yeah. But it should be. I think it'll go down to the wire the way these guys are playing it out.
Yeah. But also, if Mercedes is having engine reliability issues, there's a possibility that Oscar can have one as well. There's a possibility that, maybe they're lapping the rest of the drivers, and one of the back markers pulls off some
Hmm.
lame move, looking at you, Lance Stroll, and like punts Oscar off, right? That's also possible. You never know with these races. So
I
yeah.
don't know which engine Oscar is on, but I know Lando is going on to his last one. I think his fourth one would be the one. So like, I feel like it's the risk is still with Lando. Uh,
Yeah, but a lot of times they take engine penalties in Monza because it's easier to
yeah,
overtake here.
that makes sense. I feel like that's a perfect spot to do it. But okay,
Yes.
but I don't think he has a penalty this time around. He's still on his last engine, so he should be fine qualifying wherever.
Yeah.
Also, I just realized, not just, but I realized after the race that I was so swept up in all of this drama that I didn't realize that Ollie Behrman started from the pit lane and he ended up sixth.
Yes.
Why is nobody talking about this? I have no
I
memory.
I know I saw that I saw that fact like much
Same.
later, and I was like, "Oh my god. He's done a great job."
It was so good.
Yeah, that was a very good one. I think, like, maybe because I haven't been watching F1 for so long, but these crop of rookies are amazingly talented. Like, I can't think of a single one of them that's not brilliant.
I
Each one of them have had like a shining
Yes,
moment.
I'm waiting for something for Bortoleto as well. I mean, we've seen him have some solid races, but he's not had his like
Yes.
moment under the sun. So,
No, but in Hungary he did, right? Like, he also did the same thing as what Ollie did.
but
Like, he came from somewhere
not
behind.
like I meant like under the sun, like how Kimi or Hajar have had closer to the
Oh,
podium,
right, right,
something
right.
major like that. So, and he deserves
Got it.
that too.
Got it. Yeah. I agree. I think, and in fact, Bortoleto was one of those drivers who is constantly talking about how they need to make sure that these drivers who come all the way up to F2 get a chance to be in F1,
Yes,
right? Like, he was the Cadillac announcement that we were talking about. Now you have Checo and Bottas, which is what Cadillac needs. I agree. But when they asked Gabby about it, his immediate response was, "Okay, that's great, but what happens to the F2 champion? Like, his whole life is for this to come into this sport." So when is he going to
I
get a
mean,
space?
I can see both ways. It's not a linear journey. It's not like you do this job and you get promoted to the next level. You gotta
Correct.
just sometimes just accept the fact. But again, I think with Cadillac, a good pairing would have been an experienced driver and a more younger talent, or
Yeah,
maybe they just risk averse in their first year and they want to go with pros, and then maybe later
maybe.
down the line they could do something like that. So I see where he's coming from, but also not really. It is what it is. The people who bring the money
Yeah,
get the cars. It's like it's
that's
just that.
true. That's true. But let's talk about Monza. And this isn't just another race. This is, like we said before, the Temple of Speed, a place where Ferrari isn't just a team, it is a religion. Every September, the tifosi pour into the circuit, draped in red, climbing fences and waving giant flags, turning that track into a sea of passion. Wins here means more than points. They're about history, pride, and the nation's love affair with racing. Ask any driver, lifting a trophy at Monza just feels different because you're not just beating rivals, you are surviving the roar of the tifosi. So, some quick facts about this race. The Italian GP at Monza has been around from 1922 and officially in the F1 calendar since 1950. Drivers will do 53 laps around this 5.793 kilometer circuit with 8 corners and 2 DRS zones. The current lap record is a 121.046. It's held by Rubens Barrichello in 2004 when the cars were leaner, meaner, and louder.
I think I'm pretty confident that the McLarens are going to beat that record this year, the way they've been going.
Ooh,
And the
that's
Italian
yes.
Grand Prix is actually one of the only two races that's been on the calendar since the very first Formula One World Championship in 1950. I think the other one was the
Yep,
British Grand Prix. And unlike
correct.
other venues that have come and gone, Monza has been its true home. The only exception was in 1980 when the race shifted to Imola due to renovation works at Monza.
And Monza was built in just 110 days back in 1922, making it the third purpose built racetrack in the world, behind Brooklands in England and Indianapolis. What sets it apart then and still does today? It's the design. Long, flat out straights combined with sweeping corners. And in its original layout, a banked oval that let cars carry tremendous speed. In modern F1 terms, drivers spend around 80% of the lap at full
Oof.
throttle, and speeds well over 350 kilometers per hour are not uncommon. In fact, next year, with the new regs, the cars may even do speeds of almost 400 kilometers per hour, which sounds
That
terrifying.
is crazy. And these long straights mean slipstream battles. Drivers tuck in behind one
Yes.
another, just getting dragged along by the car ahead and then slingshot out for an overtake. It's like an old school racing
Yes.
drama playing out lap after lap, combined with just with the passionate tifosi waving the Ferrari flags, and you see why Monza is just so special. It's not just a race, it's Italy's motor racing heartbeat.
Absolutely agree. Every time I see those videos, I'm just like,
Yep.
oh my God, this is scary. This is so scary. But of course, you have a
Yes.
completely different emotion, which is, I wish I could be there. But Monza also carries a very dark history. In 1928, a crash killed driver Emilio Materassi, along with 27 spectators, one of the deadliest accidents in motorsport history. Just 5 years later, in 1933, three top drivers, Campari, Borzacchini, and Chakowski, died on the same day. And this is remembered forever as the Black Day of Monza. We will talk about this a little later when we get to the history, but essentially, these tragedies shaped safety in racing while also cementing Monza's reputation as one of the most thrilling and dangerous tracks in F1's history. So, before we get into its history, let's talk about what it looks like. And if you just look at the track, how would you describe it?
I feel like there's two ways that we can look at this without offending all my fellow Italians. I can say it looks like the
Yes.
typical Italian hand gesture. You know what it is. You've seen it. You know it.
Yes.
Or we
It's the
can
meme.
or we can go with the slightly less insane version and more appropriate version, which is that it definitely looks like a boot. Sector 1 is the base of the foot going up to turn 3, which is the heel, and then sector 2 is the collar of the boot, basically turn 6 and 7.
And then going down to sector 3, where turn 11 is the toe, going back to the start finish. I love it. I think this is the perfect way to. This is one of the easier tracks to look at and be
Yes.
like, yeah, that's exactly what that is. So let's break it down sector by sector. And I really like this track because it has a lot of fun corner names. And I know we're going to struggle to pronounce them. Sector 1, the heel of our boot, starts on the Retifilo Tribune Straight. It's Monza's iconic start finish stretch where the tifosi pack the grandstands. Drivers hit top speeds of 350 kilometers per hour, diving hard to brake at almost 70 kilometers per hour into the Variante del Retifio chicane. This is a left right flick added for safety in the 1970s. It's just to tame the sheer speed of the circuit. It's a heavy braking zone, the prime overtaking spot, and you'll often see a lot of chaos here on lap 1. Out of that, cars push through Curva Biasono, also called Curva Grande. It's a long sweeping right-hander taken flat out. It's named after the nearby town of Biasono. And it sets up the run into the next big braking zone.
Sector 2 is where the boot rises up at the collar. It begins with a Variante della Roggia, named after the Roggia River that runs through here. It's another tight chicane to slow the cars down the sausage curbs before the legendary Lesmo. The first Curva de Lesmo 1 is a medium speed right that demands position on turn in. The second, Lesmo 2, is faster and pushes drivers out onto the gravel if they're too greedy with the throttle. Both take their name from the forest of Lesmo that hugs this part of the circuit. These corners are critical. Nail them and you carry huge momentum onto the Siraj Leo Straight.
Sector 3 takes us down to the toe of the boot. First comes Variante Ascari, a gorgeous left chicane named after Alberto Ascari, Italian's double world champion, who tragically lost his life at Monza in 1955. This section tests balance and rhythm. Get it wrong, and your lap is gone. From there, the cars blast down the Retifio di Seraglio into Monza's final, most famous corner, Parabolica. It's officially renamed to Curva Alboreto in 2021 to honor the Italian hero, but the fans still call it Parabolica. I'm pretty sure the commentators will call it Parabolica as well. It's a never ending high speed right hander that feels like it's pulling you to the outside wall. Carrying speed here is everything because it slingshots you back onto the main straight, and that's where races at Monza are often decided. So, Ashwati, what are your podium predictions for Monza 2025?
I think it's going to be two papaya, one orange, one red. I think we also know which orange and which red. It's just that I know
Yes.
Oscar, Lando, and Max have just been like doing the managing the podiums. It's just one, or it's between the three
Aha.
of them. But I feel like with Monza and the emotion it carries and the legacy of Ferrari, I hope and pray for a Leclerc podium at least, maybe P3.
Yes.
That would be some kind of
Yes.
redemption. What do you think?
I hope so. I mean, yes, two papayas for sure. I'm hoping Leclerc because it can't be Hamilton because he's got a grid place penalty for Monza, which is just a horrible way to start
Yep,
his first ever home race. My
it's
God,
brutal.
it's if I'm Lewis Hamilton right now, I'm crying a lot into my pillow, into my dog actually, just hugging him and crying. But yes, my I think if not for Leclerc, I'm really hoping, and I don't want to say this out loud and then get one bun in my face, but I'm really hoping to see one of the Williams in the top 5 position because Williams usually has great straight line speed, and Alex is he knows that car. He can do this. Um, I mean, I wouldn't mind either way. I'm hoping Carlos is just like fueled by that ex tifosi energy and just wants to beat Lewis even further into the ground. And the car can do it. So I'm hoping one of them makes it into top 5.
Don't give me hope, Nisha. You can do whatever you want. Don't give me hope. Don't do me like that. I,
Oh man, this is just every single Ferrari fan. Like, don't give me hope, it
yes,
seems.
it's just not. If it happens, it happens. But don't give me hope. There's nothing worse than
Yes,
hope.
I think it'll be exciting if it happens.
I will scream and shout and jump off the roof if it happens.
But let's talk about the history of the race itself, right? So, if Formula One has a spiritual home outside of Britain, it's Monza. The Autodromo Nazionale Monza was one of the very first purpose built racetracks in the world, funded by the Automobile Club of Milan. The design was ambitious. It was a 10-kilometer circuit that combined a high speed oval with long straights and sweeping road course sections, built deep inside the royal villa of Monza Parklands.
I think the real magic, what elevates Monza, comes from the tifosi, the Ferrari faithful. Monza isn't just
Yes.
another stop on the calendar for them, it's their home, it's their cathedral, it's my home.
Yes.
Ferrari and Monza are woven into each other's histories, where each Ferrari win there feels like a national holiday. And I remember
Yes.
watching Charles Leclerc last year at Monza, and I can't put into words what I felt. And I feel like Monza is on the top of my list as one of the Grand Prix I must watch in my lifetime. And if Ferrari wins there, I
Yes.
might just die. You might have to drag me out of that place.
Oh my. You know what's funny? It's Ferrari is such a big, like, it's such a huge, like, religion in Italy that even though there is an Italian who is racing there this year, you will still see more people supporting Ferrari and not Kimi Antonelli.
100% Ferrari surpasses any single individual. It's
Yes.
about the brand, no matter who the driver is, no matter what other Italians are there. There's so much
Yeah.
legacy, and Ferrari are the for the longest part of history they've been like underdogs rising to glory. That's just been their storyline. So you
True.
can't like stop like rooting for them.
True, true. But I do hope one day that Kimi gets a chance to work in Ferrari. I know he's been a Mercedes kid through and through, but you never know. Even Lewis Hamilton was a Mercedes kid through and through, and now he's in Ferrari. So an Italian in Ferrari might be interesting to see.
Imagine how much they worship Charles Leclerc. Literally
Oh,
photos of
God.
him being worshipped, and I think Kimi would.
Oh, my God. Dude, I have seen restaurants which have named pasta after Charles Leclerc.
Like, what more?
And he's not even from there.
Forget Drivers' Championship. What more do you need to secure your legacy?
That's true. That is true. Very, very true. So we did discuss Monza's dark history, but that one incident in 1993, which is the Black Day of Monza, the other effect that it had was on Enzo Ferrari himself. Because Campari and Borzacini, they were not just drivers, they were his close friends and colleagues. And that day marked a turning point in Ferrari's outlook on racing. He began to see motorsport less as a carefree adventure and more as something brutal, dangerous, and unforgiving. It hardened his character, made him more stoic, and more emotionally detached. These are the traits that will later define how he ran Scuderia Ferrari. He became obsessed with extracting perfection from his cars and his drivers, often at a great personal cost. It also explains why Ferrari rarely attended races in person later in life. Publicly, he claimed that he disliked the travel, but many people who were close to him believed that he couldn't bear witnessing death up close again.
Still, Monza endured. The 1950s and 1960s saw some of the most dramatic slipstreaming battles in F1 history. With its endless straights and minimal corners, races here often just turn out into flat out slipstream duels, cars running side by side at 180 miles per hour, drivers darting in and out of each other's toe. I think the 1971 race remains the ultimate example. Peter Gatton
Yeah.
won just by 0.01 seconds, the closest finish in F1 history at the time. with the top five cars
Mhm.
separated by less than a second.
This reminds me of that one scene in Cars. Yes, the animated
Of
movie.
course.
When they all like reach that finish line just by like that much, right? That imagine that's a movie. Imagine seeing that in real life. Woof.
I don't think my heart can take it.
And through it all, Monza has remained vital to Formula One. Its layout has been tweaked over the years, adding chicanes in 1970s, altering Curva Grande and Parabolica, introducing more runoff areas, but the soul of the track hasn't changed. It is still the fastest track on the calendar, where cars run the lowest downforce that they possibly can. For drivers, it's a test of bravery, and for fans, it's an absolute pilgrimage. And there have been some incredible moments at Monza. 1961 gave us both glory and tragedy. Ferrari's Phil Hill won the race and clinched the world championship, becoming the first American world champion in F1. But the day was overshadowed by a horrific crash that killed his teammate, Von Trips, and 15 spectators as well.
Ooh.
It's a dark reminder of how dangerous racing was back then.
Fast forward to 1979, Jordi Sector's win at Monza delivered the Drivers' Championship to Ferrari, which would become the Scuderia's last until 2000s.
You must love Kimi Raikkonen.
Of course I do. He's amazing.
Yes, he is amazing. He is amazing. Although I love Kimi Raikkonen as well. I like the nonchalant, I don't have time. Maybe that's why I like Oscar.
And
Because he's very
Kimi
chill.
liked a post on Instagram comparing him and Oscar. So there's something about that.
Really? Cute, cute. But yes, back to Monza. 1988 was an emotional one. Ferrari's Gerhard Berger and Alboreto took a 1-2 finish just weeks after Enzo Ferrari's death. It was the only race that McLaren didn't win that year, and the Tifosi celebrated it as a tribute to their founder.
2008 was the birth of a star, a young Sebastian Vettel driving for Toro Rosso, Red Bull's junior team, shocked the world by taking pole and race win in wet conditions. It was Toro Rosso's only
Yep.
win and it announced Vettel as the future of F1.
2019 brought Ferrari back to glory on home soil. Charles Leclerc held off Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas in a very tense race, becoming the first Ferrari driver to win at Monza since 2010. The Tifosi went wild. There was red flags, chanting, climbing fences, which of course repeated itself last year, and we'll talk more about that soon.
2020 turned Monza into madness. Lewis Hamilton got a penalty, Charles Leclerc crashed, and suddenly Pierre Gasly, driving for AlphaTauri, found himself in the lead. He held off Carlos
Yes.
Sainz for his first ever win, and it was one of the most shocking results of modern F1. He had just been dropped by Red Bull, so that shot of him sitting on the podium, empty grandstands, and just soaking in the
Yep.
moment is so iconic.
It's beautiful. I remember he was talking about it in some podcast about how like because it was COVID times and no one could attend the races and he just didn't want to leave that stage. Like he just sat there thinking about that win. So I feel kind of bad that no one could be there and show him the support, but hey, a win is a win.
I think this is one of the first F1 races I saw as a new fan. I'm like, what is this? I want more. Give me more. It's giving me all like I was so emotionally charged on for that particular race that
Yes.
I think one of the reasons that like got me hooked into F1.
And speaking of emotionally charged, 2021 gave us the infamous clash. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton tangled at the chicane, Max's car landing right on top of Lewis's, saved by the halo. The race was eventually won by McLaren's Daniel Ricciardo, giving McLaren their first win in almost a decade. It's also the reason why Zach Brown has a Monza tattoo on his arm.
I think we need to talk about 2024. It was Monza 2024 was a proper roller coaster, and of course, it had to be because this is
Yes.
Ferrari's backyard. Let's start right at the front. Charles Leclerc gave the tifosi exactly what they came for. He soaked up all
Yes.
that pressure, fought off McLaren's double attack with a little help from his teammate, and took an emotional victory that set the whole track on fire. You could feel the roar and the passion through the TV screens. It was goosebump stuff. All the fans just standing below the podium singing the Italian national anthem.
Oh, that always gets me.
His teammate Carlos Sainz, he may not have challenged the podium fight, but he was still out there, keeping Oscar at bay
Yep.
and calling out strategies to ensure that Ferrari win big. It was an amazing moment for the team and for everybody involved.
Absolutely. And McLaren was there in the mix as well. Oscar Piastri really showed his class, pushing Leclerc all the way and finishing just behind him in P2. He was starting to look less like a rookie and more like someone who can regularly scrap for wins, as is obvious in today's scenario. Lando Norris had the pace as well, but found himself boxed in at key moments and he had to settle for third. Still, two McLarens on a podium, and that was a very strong weekend for them in enemy territory.
Red Bull, on the other hand, just had a weekend to forget. Max Verstappen had one of those rare off days where the car just didn't have the straight line speed. He fought hard but could do no better than fifth, which felt like a defeat for the reigning champ, especially where his fans, the
Yep.
Orange Army, had invaded Monza hoping for fireworks. For Sergio Perez, even tougher. He had reliability
Yep.
issues and limped home away out of the points.
Mercedes weren't bad, but they weren't great either. Lewis Hamilton squeezed everything he could out of the car to finish just behind Max, showing once again why Monza is a track where experience really matters. George Russell was a little quieter, finishing in the lower points, but Mercedes will leave Italy feeling like they were just missing a step compared to Ferrari and McLaren.
For the midfield, Aston Martin had a tough time. Fernando Alonso wrestled the car into the top 10 with his usual brilliance, but Lance Stroll, as usual, was nowhere near the fight.
Hey, you can't say that after the race he had yet, like last week.
Ask him,
I could not believe Lance Stroll finished before
ask him to do
Fernando
this.
Alonso.
Ask him to do this a couple of times in a row, and then I will change my statement.
Fine, fair.
Alpine had a mixed bag too. Esteban Ocon managed a decent points finish, but Pierre Gasly struggled all weekend, slipping backwards in a race that never came to him at all.
And then there were the Haas boys, giving us the classic underdog grit. Nico Hulkenberg finished just outside the points, while Kevin Magnussen just couldn't keep the pace. Williams, sadly, were ghosts at their so called home away from home. Alex Albon pushed but was out of contention, and Logan Sargent's struggles continued. Sauber and Visa Cash App Racing Bulls rounded out the back with Yuki Tsunoda putting up some fight, but Daniel Ricciardo just left frustrated. Now, preparing for Monza is unlike any other race on the calendar because this is the Temple of Speed. And if you're annoyed by the number of times I have said Temple of Speed, just wait for the commentators to start.
It
You will have it tattooed in your eyes.
it sounds like the a part of a Indiana Jones movie, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Speed.
Yeah. The Italian GP at the Temple of Speed. Yes, correct. But it is called Temple of Speed for a reason, right? Because the teams bring their lowest downforce packages of the year. Essentially, they strip the car down so it slices through the long straights. It means lesser grip on in the corners, but that's the trade-off they need to reach those eye-watering top speeds. Braking is another huge factor here. Monza has some of the heaviest braking zones in F1, like into turn 1 and the Variante della Roggia. So, brake cooling is something engineers work on all weekend.
And Pirelli is most likely bringing their softest range in the allocation, which means tire degradation could play a big role in these blistering speeds. The track's long
Yep.
straights allow for some cooling, but the stop start nature of the chicanes can really punish the rears. A one stop is often the goal at Monza, but safety cars and high speed accidents tend to shuffle that plan. There's also a long pit lane entry and exit feeding right into the main straight. So sometimes the two stop can still work if tire wear is worse than expected.
And Pirelli has been doing this for the past for this year actually, just making sure that those tires are in that perfect window to ensure that it's not just a one stop race, right? They want you to do more stops. Um, Monza in early September is sunny and warm with highs leaning in between 27 to 29 degrees Celsius. Expect typical early autumn swing. So bright, blistering track temps in the afternoon, maybe dropping temperatures when the clouds roll in. And this could also affect the tire behavior massively. Of course, we also expect the tifosi army in full force and hopefully giving the Ferrari boys some motivation after the disaster at Zandvoort.
100% we needed. Let's go, Charles Leclerc.
Hey, Lewis also so sad. Give him some love. It's Forza Ferrari, not Forza Charles Leclerc. We are now at the F1 jargon section, which we do towards the end. And I know we've discussed a lot about how penalties are levied and black points are awarded. But back in June of this year, the FIA, in an effort to be more honest and transparent, released these driving standards guidelines. These are not hard rules, but a framework of how the stewards may award penalties during a race. And I feel like this is important to discuss considering all the penalties that we saw at Zandvoort, right? So these driving standard guidelines, there's two main things that the fans of F1 should know about. One is overtaking and the other one is moving under braking. So the FIA guidelines essentially split overtakes into two categories. Ones that occur on the inside of a corner and the ones that occur on the outside. So just, it's going to be difficult to understand this without thinking about it visually, but I'll try to do my best. So if you have two cars on track when overtaking on the inside of a corner, so essentially the two cars are turning, you want to get ahead, you are overtaking on the inside of that corner, the shorter turn that you have to take. When you're doing that, the document makes it very clear that if the overtaking car wants any room, the front axle of your car needs to be alongside the mirror of the car that you're trying to overtake. And this has to happen before you make that turn. Okay, these all happens in like fractions of a second and between fractions of meters, but these are guidelines to help to help the stewards review, right? So if you have that, if the front axle of your car is alongside the mirror of the other car prior to and at the apex, then the driver is entitled to give you space. Otherwise, he has no reason to let you come into that space. Now, couple of things to keep in mind. The car that's trying to overtake must be driving in a fully controlled manner, which means you can't dive bomb. And at the same time, there must be some reasonable racing line. Like if you draw out the line of the path that you're going to take, it can't be like going to Australia and then coming back. No, you have to be on the racing line. And you have to make sure that you complete the move while remaining within the track limits. You can't be making that move outside of the track entirely, right? So that's the rule for overtaking when it's inside of a corner.
So basically, auto drivers in Kormangla don't qualify.
Yes, exactly. That rule is specifically for them.
I feel like overtaking on the outside of a corner is always viewed as a more difficult maneuver to accomplish, also more exciting.
Yep.
To be
Yes.
entitled to room in this situation, including at the corner exit, the overtaking car must have its front axle ahead of the front axle of the other car at the apex, as well as being driven in a controlled manner from entry to apex and exit, and making the corner within track limits.
Yes. And overtaking outside of a corner doesn't usually happen unless you have like a giant
Yes,
corner with a lot of banking and things like
yes.
that. And the whole idea of overtaking outside of the corner, I feel like it started with Fernando Alonso trying it in Suzuka. In that one of that bank in, I think is it called 130R? Yeah, essentially one of those corners where he did whatever he did to Michael Schumacher, where usually people used to overtake on the inside and he was like, you know what? You guys are leaving a lot of space here. I think I can do something cool.
Classic Alonso.
Yes. But however, even these two guidelines that we've talked about is very subjective, and the stewards can change their mind on how they apply this based on the circumstances, because they need to take into consideration, was the maneuver late or was it optimistic? Was there understeer, oversteer? Uh, do they believe that this could be completed on the track? And what were the relative tire age, tire grip? So there's a lot of things that they have to consider before levying any penalties. The other rule that we wanted to talk about, that's mentioned in the driving standards guidelines, is moving under braking. So, Ashwati, can you explain what this is?
Moving under braking. You might have heard George Russell complain about it 3 times every race this
All
season.
the
He's
time,
moving under
I
braking.
swear.
He's the brake police. But picture this. You're flying down a straight, you're defending your position, and the car behind is trying to slipstream past you. Now in F1, you're allowed one defensive move. You can pick a line and
Yes.
cover it. But once you start braking, that's it. You cannot swerve or shift across the track because at those speeds, the driver behind has already committed to their braking point. So if you suddenly jink across, they've got nowhere to go, and that's just a huge crash waiting to happen.
It's basically about safety, and it gives the chasing driver a fair chance to react. This rule really came to prominence in the early 2010s when young driver Max Verstappen was aggressive with his defensive driving. He'd sometimes move right at the last second when braking, and it sparked big debates. Eventually, the FIA tightened this rule: no moving under braking, period. Do it, and you're risking a penalty.
Usually it's time penalties. I feel like the most common you'll hear
Yes.
is 5 second penalty. It sounds small, but in F1 that can cost you a couple of positions at the least. If it's more serious, they'll dish out a 10-second penalty. Unless it's Carlos Sainz at Sandalwood, then it's just penalty just for existing.
Correct.
Or even they could even give you a drive-through penalty where you literally have to go through the pit lane without stopping. And in extreme
Yep.
cases, if the move caused a crash for some reason, the stewards can even give grid drops for the next race or penalty points on a driver's super license.
Yep.
Basically, don't be cheeky with the brakes.
And that is a wrap on the Italian Grand Prix. But we need to discuss one last thing. What is your boldest prediction for the rest of the 2025 season?
So you said bold, right? So I'm not going to say, oh, Lando, Oscar. I'm not going to say all of that. I feel like
Yeah,
by the end of this season, there will be a race which ends up with Alex Albon in the podium, on the podium.
I love that. That counts the sprint as well?
Uh, we will take it if you give it, but I would prefer a race.
For sure, for sure. I mean, obviously, everyone wants a full race weekend podium, but sometimes beggars cannot be choosers.
Hello, ma'am, please don't. You are Yuki Tsunoda. He's going on to see in the
Hey
podium in
man,
a year.
I'm not saying Yuki. Forget podium. I don't even know if Yuki will have a seat next year.
I,
Especially with Isaac doing so well, I'm so scared that they're going to demote him to, when I saw Isaac Hadjar on the podium, my first thought was, God, if Yuki had remained in that team, that would be him right now. And now just crying at the lost chances for Yuki Tsunoda.
I have a question for
But
you.
it's fine.
With the way
Yes.
I know Yuki's going to finish out the season with Red Bull, but what do you think with the way Red Bull has been about promoting people from the VSRB? Do you think Hajar to
Yeah.
Red Bull makes sense? It doesn't make sense to me, but I want to know for you.
No, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for Isaac at all. You're going to put him in a bad car. But they need to bring up Arvid Lindblad. So I don't think they have a choice. They wouldn't drop Liam because he's more experienced than Isaac. They wouldn't put Liam back into a seat with
No,
Max for sure.
you don't get hired
Because,
from a job you got fired from. I mean, you don't. There's no going
yeah.
back to Liam unless But who do you think will be with Max
Yeah,
next year?
I think it might be Isaac. I think it might be Isaac, and Arvid is going to come into Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, which will be exciting. And we have to remember that VCarb is a development team,
Yes.
so it's good to have like fresh blood in that team.
I would have preferred
But
if Haja got another season with Vicarb just to like.
me too. I agree. I would have wanted Isaac to remain, but like, what are you going to do? Drop Liam and keep Yuki? Actually, that's not bad. Why?
Yeah,
Why am I being so pessimistic? Drop Liam, dude.
both Liam
But
getting
yeah, if
fired.
that happens, that would be that would be the best case scenario. Goodbye, Liam.
Okay, we'll
Okay,
take
cool.
that.
We do have a break this week, and after that, we are heading to Baku. And for me, literally headed to Baku because I am attending my first ever F1 race with Anjali. You may remember her from episode 3, so stay tuned to know more about our adventure. To our amazing listeners, what do you think? Drop your hot takes in the comments, send us a message, or tag us in your wildest predictions. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, and share F101 with friends because this community is just getting started. If you have any queries or you want to be a friend on the pod, please reach out to me on Instagram. The link is in the description. Thank you, Aswathy, for being on this episode. I've been your host, Nisha, and we'll see you all on the next episode of F101 with Friends.